Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Film Room Podcast. This is Season 2, Episode 15. I'm your host, Joe Baress, along with my co-host, Joby Fawcett. Joby, how we doing?
I'm doing well, Joe. It was a very eventful weekend, I would say, in the world of Northeast Pennsylvania sports. You were quite busy.
Yeah,
And it's always big news whenever we get an opportunity to celebrate and chat with someone, and certainly celebrate the team's accomplishment of being a state champion.
absolutely. So, hey, let's start there and get right to it. We are joined right now by our Times-Tribune Athlete of the Week, Billy Johnson of the now state champion Abington Heights boys soccer team. Billy, how we doing?
Pretty good.
Absolutely. So what Billy did last week, he had 10 saves in a 2-1 win, 2-0 win over District 1 champion Harriton in the PIAA Class 3A semifinals, which were at Hamburg Area High School, and also had 8 saves in a 2-0 victory over District 3 champion Conrad Weiser in Saturday's final. Abington Heights became the first District 2 soccer champion since Mountain View in 2012, and also captured the school's first state title. The Comets didn't allow a goal in 7 postseason games and finished with 18 clean sheets on the season. So, Billy, just to start off, I know we talked yesterday, but watching your games, what I found most impressive about you is that you were always in the right position. You know, you're obviously athletic. You could dive for the ball. You could jump for the ball, but you made difficult saves look easy. I'm sure they weren't, but how do you kind of prepare to put yourself in the right position at all times? What kind of goes into that preparation?
I mean, I've always been taught that just all the saves, like they should be easy saves, but the saves that look impressive, it was because the keeper was out of position. I've always been taught that. So you always just have to think ahead and scan the field and see like where the next shot might come from and who is like the real threat in scoring. And if you can just prepare to move to that position, like you just always have to be moving and you'll just find yourself in the right spot and the ball will be right in your hands.
Billy, so my question for you is, as a young athlete, whatever different sports you might have been interested in, but what attracted you to becoming a goalie? I mean, look, I don't know much about soccer, nor do I know much about hockey, but I do know that position often gets peppered with a lot of responsibility. So how did that kind of lead you to that learning and being so skillful at that position?
I just remember like a long time ago, on one of my young rec teams or travel teams, like the starting goalie went down and I just stepped in and I made like a really good save without ever playing before. And I was like, I could probably do this as like my main position. And I just started practicing it.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the moments in the final that I found pretty cool, Billy, was, you told me yesterday that you knew very early on in the second half that you guys were going to win that game based on how you started that second half. And when I knew you guys were definitely going to win, is you made a save. I'm not sure exactly when in the second half, but in the second half, and you kind of started nodding. You were nodding, and it just looked like you were so locked in. And I was just like, they are not getting anything past Billy. They are not getting anything past this defense. If you remember that moment, kind of like what were you feeling in that moment, and how locked in were you to that game?
I mean, I remember that moment. I caught the ball on a corner kick and I came down with it and knew they were like Conrad Weiser. They were needing something really special to get past all of our defense and then past me in the goal. And as I started nodding, I knew like how confident I felt in our defense and against their strong attack that like we were just not going to lose and allow a goal and make it a game again.
So, Billy, a lot of times in soccer, I have to imagine it's such a low-scoring sport that there isn't an unusual amount of pressure on the goalkeeper. Okay, I mean, obviously the defensive players have to do their job in trying to prevent easy shots or trying to allow people to have clear angles on you as the tender. But what's it like in the net when you realize the game is so close that everything kind of rests upon you to do your job to the best of your ability?
I mean, you can never really think about losing. You can't play scared to lose. You always just have to play to win, because if you play scared to lose, you might start hesitating and overthinking what you're going to do, and then you'll just freeze, and then you won't be playing your game. You'll just be stuck in your head. You always just have to be confident. And I've always just felt the confidence that I knew we were going to win the game. And every game we went into this year, I knew we were going to win.
Absolutely. Billy, there were obviously, I could go on and on about every player on your team, honestly. Everyone had a role. I want you to kind of focus in on, you had such great seniors and you had such great senior leadership. How much did the seniors mean to this team?
I mean, they meant a lot because they were just the leaders of the team, and the captains, Enzo and Nico. They really just, they took that role very well. I wouldn't want anyone else to be captains besides those two, because they'd always keep people in check. They'd tell us to focus when we needed to. And they were really good just telling us what to do and being very critical about it in the moment.
So, Billy, look, you're a state champion now. And when the season began, I know this group had very high expectations based on the successes that you've had in previous seasons, but kind of explain the entire work that went into producing a state championship season, not just from you as the goaltender, but from everybody who is a member of this group.
I mean, in practice every day, we were always focused and locked in and always ready to get on to the next game. And every day at practice meant just as much as the last one. But I also feel like how we came into the season with a more relaxed feeling. We didn't stress out too much about big games, and we were always just kind of in a joyous mood. And that's what I feel like just kept us in such a flowy state, and we just played our games and played together. And we were never too stressed. And I think we only yelled at each other once the whole season, and it was during the Harrington game when we started to get rattled. But then we came right back to each other, and we just realized that if we just play our game, we're going to win.
Yeah, definitely. And it flows down right from, the veterans on the team to the freshmen, obviously just to name a couple, Lucas Samala and Wes Ilian. Talk about how impressed you were and how important the underclassmen were.
I mean, I always heard words about how this freshman class coming up was going to be special, and I never really knew how good they could have been until I started seeing them play for the first time, and I was like, they're really going to fill that role, because coming in as a freshman, the physical difference from a 14-year-old to an 18-year-old is crazy, and how they're able to just handle those environments and play their game. It was truly special out of them and all the freshmen.
Okay, so Billy, now the final seconds are ticking away. You're pitching another shutout, and you're going to be a state champion. What's that like emotionally for you? As a lot of athletes, when they're growing up, they visualize or they watch, let's say, the World Series or an NFL championship game, or in your case, maybe a soccer championship, and you see that wild celebration. What's that feeling like when the buzzer sounds? Now you're a state champion.
I mean, you just feel all the work is paid off, and it's just such a great feeling. And it's just being with all your friends in the community. There's just no better feeling than just winning it finally.
Absolutely. So, Billy, you guys going to repeat next year?
Definitely.
Joe?
I love it. We're setting the odds. We're setting the bar high. So, listen, last thing I think about, at least when it comes to the team, you talked to me in your Athlete of the Week interview, how important your defensive line was. Enzo, James, Aiden. What was your guys' connection like on the field? I'm sure you all have to communicate with each other. What was your guys' connection like on the field?
I mean, we're always just clear to each other, and we always just function well. And we know if one player messes up, the other three will have their back, and it's always just the next play ahead. We're always focused, and we celebrate as a group. And we know all those clean sheets came from us working collectively. It wasn't a one person kept the clean sheet, and even the midfielders, they just as big as a role.
So, Billy, let me ask you this. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course, but I'm pretty sure that I'm right on this. Now, you're the second state champion in your family, correct?
Yes.
So, what does that mean to you that now you and your brother Harry can celebrate championships, being at the highest level that you can win it, and both have gold medals?
mean, he's just pretty cool because he's always wanted me to be better than him. And that's just a really kind thing from him. And it's just fun that I've won one as well.
Now, did you kind of really get into following that group of basketball players when they won their journey? And did you think about that during your team's quest here?
I thought about it a little bit because like they made just as big as history as us. Maybe they even made more history. And it was just cool because we were also writing our names down and like we'll be in the school forever as well.
Absolutely. How has, obviously, we just talked about, Harry won a state title in basketball and, you won one just now. How has Harry influenced your life?
I mean, he's just been the best role model I could have asked for. And he's just a great person overall.
Absolutely. So moving on now, obviously after this, you're going to basketball practice. There's no rest. What is that transition like for you? Obviously, usually your season's been over a little sooner, soccer season. What's the transition like for you to from soccer to basketball?
I mean, it's just I got to set my goals for the same thing we had for soccer is to win it all, and just back to like step one with the basketball team, like it was with soccer, and just start working.
So for this transition you have to make, I know Coach J.C. Shaw is going to give you a little time to kind of get your sea legs underneath you. But how long do you think it's going to take for you, one, to come down from the emotions of winning a state title and certainly the physical toll that long season had on you? How long do you think it is before you're kind of into the full swing of things in basketball?
It'll probably take like a week or two. I remember last year I had a kind of slow start, but once I just get in that basketball state, I'm pretty sure I'll be pretty fine.
Absolutely. Billy, you're a Tennessee Volunteers fan and you are a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. How did you become a Tennessee fan?
My dad was born in Tennessee.
Oh, okay, cool. You been to any games out there?
No, I haven't.
Cool. What do you think about the Steelers so far this season?
I mean, they look pretty promising. They just need to get settled down on offense, and if the defense plays how they do sometimes every game, like they could easily make a run for the Super Bowl, I think.
Well, that's an interesting take there. Aaron Rodgers got banged up a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he'll be back, but the way that defense has looked a few games, it's been crazy. I think they had 2 touchdowns last game.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah. So before we let you go, Billy, you got any Thanksgiving plans?
I'll probably just go to my family friend's house like we have the last couple of years.
Awesome.
Joby. Joe, he's looking forward to the break. I mean, he's not. He may not admit it to us, but I think he's looking forward to a couple of days off with the family and friends, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's got to be.
You've certainly earned it, Billy. That's for sure.
Thank you.
So, hey, I just want to say I greatly enjoyed covering you guys. It was a hell of a run, it just really, really an impressive run. And, it's history, like, people have been saying, like you've been saying. So, hey, congratulations, enjoy it. And, good luck in basketball as well.
Thank you.
All right, Billy, thanks. Look forward to seeing you in basketball season.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right. So that was Billy Johnson, our Times-Tribune Athlete of the Week.
Joe, this just in.
Yeah.
You can't get beat if you can't score against them.
That's a problem, right? That's a problem.
You could take that gold medal to the bank with this guy in net.
You're darn right.
They didn't give up a goal.
No goals. No goals throughout the postseason, entire postseason.
Yeah, you're not going to lose that way.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think scored, Joe?
They outscored their opponents 31-0 in the postseason. Joby, this was just an incredible team from top to bottom.
Now, Joe, listen, here's the thing. This is a state championship soccer team, okay? And you mentioned earlier that Mountain View was the last boys soccer team to win a state title back in 2012, and I can remember those teams were quite talented at Mountain View. But I would argue now, as we move forward into this next stretch of our careers, yours going to be much longer than mine moving forward, you're going to have to, rank this achievement quite high on the list of greatest accomplishments, sports accomplishments on the high school level. But I would argue that Billy Johnson and this defensive performance is going to be a top 5. I know people are going to say hyperbole and you get caught up in the moment, but Joe, I can't fathom or even think about anybody else, any team, any individual, knowing the responsibilities of a goaltender in soccer to go through the entire postseason without having someone score a goal against you. It's just incredible. And again, this will be a project for you someday, Joe. You're going to rank the top 10 things. Well, just yourself before you leave your career. You'll probably sit down and say, I'm going to think of the 5 best things that I've ever seen as a high school sports reporter. And it's got to be one of the best, if not the best.
It's absolutely up there for sure. Quickly, well, I'm going to ramble on here, but so number one, just to wrap up, how great Billy Johnson was. There were so many shots where he made, and I'm happy he kind of explained it. He said, if the save looks impressive, it means the goalie was out of position. And that was actually a very interesting thing, because Billy was always in the exact position that he needed to be. It was, he would get shots fired on him from Harriton and Conrad Weiser, and he would just be right where the ball was. It was so impressive. Obviously, you've seen him. He's tall. He could jump. He's a basketball player and a volleyball player. And what made it so impressive is that he made difficult saves look easy. He was always in the right spot. Joby, when I started covering soccer this season, I never thought that this is how it would end. And it was honestly incredible. One of the, if not the best, but one of the top 5, top 3, runs that I've covered, obviously ending in a state title. This was, obviously I've covered wrestling primarily, football as well, but I've seen Zach Daccaruso win a state title, the Delaware Valley. I've seen Jaden Pepe win 3 state titles from Wyoming area. I've seen Anthony Evanitsky win a state title live. I've been covering wrestling when Willie Evanitsky won from Scranton. This was right up there with those. And what was so special about it, and I wrote a column about it today, which I know you saw. I realize that soccer is a team sport, so I'm not trying to say, of course they won because they had a great team. But this, I feel like it's a rarity when you could easily pinpoint a big moment in the state playoffs that every single player had, all 11 on the field, and even more than 11, all 11 starters, that's for sure. From Billy Johnson to, obviously their stars, Nico Bustos and Joey Pivorato, just coming up in the clutch. They're the big players, and they always came through in every single game. Lucas Samala and Wes Ilian coming up with big assists in the quarterfinals and semifinals. They're freshmen. You have Jack Luth having the big first round game. Aiden Gardner, James Mitchell, Enzo Capozzi on that back defensive line that, again, only gave up 9 goals the entire season. We mentioned Billy Johnson. Tanner Shane had a massive moment in the final where he's able to force a foul that leads to a free kick that James Mitchell placed perfectly for, obviously, Nico Bustos, who headed it in, gave them the 2-0 lead. And at that point, the game's pretty much over, seals the win. Connor McDonald, the person who doesn't show up in the box score, but is always all over the field, defensively, offensively, filling in for Nico when he has to attack, filling in for Nico when he has to drop back on defense. It was really just an all around. They won because they were a true team. everyone contributed at every point, and it was just incredible to watch. There were no egos. There were no one cared about individual glory. It was a true team, and that's really what made this run so special.
Yeah, Joe, and that's, I think, is the true definition that sometimes gets lost in the current state of athletics at all levels, is that it does take a true team working together to win and achieve a state championship. And, kudos to Abington Heights boys soccer team for achieving that. And boy, Joe, what a fall sports season we've had, huh? In District 2.
I was going to bring that up, Joby. I mean,
well, I'm glad you're going to do that, Joe. That's why I'm here.
We're always on the same page.
Yeah, sometimes it's the back page,
and
Joe.
Sometimes it is the back page. But,
either way.
But you know what, Joby? This is our podcast, so we're out in front of it today.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Okay, and you tell me if I'm forgetting anything. This is just the fall sports season.
Go ahead, rattle it off.
Tennis, Scranton Prep tennis team championship. Scranton Prep doubles team championship. Kara Evans, Montrose, into a singles championship.
Yeah.
We've got Cole Powell, Scranton Prep individual championship in golf. Scranton Prep golf team championship. Abington Heights soccer, boys soccer championship. Did I miss one?
Yes.
Wow.
Elk Lake boys.
Elk Lake boys. There you go. Cross country championship.
Not to mention that Riverside finished second.
In
the championship race.
Joby, how insane is that?
So, we started to, when we had the podcast going here in the fall, we kicked it off. We really thought we had some real possibilities. Look, the sports that screamed out loud to us were going to be golf and tennis. Okay, we had great success last year in both of those sports, and it just got better this year. Okay, we added a little bit more hardware this year in both of those sports. I think in cross country, Scotty Walsh, who covers that sport for us, felt real strongly that Elk Lake and Riverside and maybe even another team in the higher classifications, Abington Heights girls, could certainly contend for state titles, and he was proven correct. He just knew that he had a real deep roster of outstanding distance runners, and I happen to know a lot of these athletes because they compete in the track and field season. So, I felt pretty good about that. The boys and girls soccer, if you had asked me at the beginning of the season, again, Joe, I'm not going to fib and say I'm deeply enthralled in knowing what's going on with the soccer. I have a lot on my plate, not just chicken wings during the course of the fall sports season. But, I would think that Abington Heights and the boys and girls would always be in contention, and they certainly proved me to be correct. We knew Abington Heights girls had a great season, and then again, I go back to anytime you keep posting those shutouts, and you just need to get that one past the opponent's goaltender, and Abington Heights certainly had the firepower with the boys team. And look, it's a great effort for them and a great championship performance and a great season. That's part of what has been a very rewarding and fall sports season.
Right, Joby. You're always telling me there's a reason they keep score.
Yes, and you have to score to keep it.
So. Yeah, exactly. So it was just it was really incredible watching this team, impose their will on the other teams. These other teams were not ready for Abington Heights, and it was really, really incredible, really fun to watch and cover. Happy I got to do it. And congratulations to Abington Heights.
And if I may say so, Joe,
yeah,
you did an excellent job on your first year with the beat.
Thank you.
With your videos, with your updates throughout the course of the season, and through what was a very exciting postseason. So, you deserve a lot of credit for helping promote the sport. And I know the people at Abington Heights have reached out to me to thank you, and also they have really been appreciative for everything you've done for them. So good job by you.
Thank you so much for saying that. I've had people from Abington Heights reach out to me as well, and it's greatly appreciated. I want to make sure before we end discussion about the Abington Heights soccer team, I feel bad. The only person I did not mention in my column today was Coach Frank Diska, and he obviously put this team together, put the players in the right spots, and prepared them, and he deserves a ton of credit as well. So I wanted to make sure that I at least shouted him out on this podcast. So, Joby, we have had an excellent fall sports season, and it's not over.
No, but Joe, before we do draw the curtain on the fall, obviously we still have some football games to be played here coming up this weekend. But with each season, as we get to the end here, we have all the success, and we kind of put a little ribbon on the season. We've kind of started to give some of our postseason awards.
Yeah.
Okay. And the girls tennis all region team was announced last week.
Mm-hmm.
We had an opportunity to get that. Why keep sitting on it? These kids have been done playing for 2 weeks. So
Right. Fair.
And look, Joe, I've been covering sports now 30 plus years, right? I know I don't look it, but I have. And each year we get into this time of the year when it comes down to all region selections and player of the year selections and coach of the year selections. And it is extremely difficult on us as the writers, the reporters.
Yeah.
And we agonize over it. We've talked about how difficult the job it is just to select the athlete of the week.
Yes.
Each week in our area. And based upon what we have seen from the accomplishments of these kids week in and week out, I hope people can understand it's not an easy job. But I do appreciate how great the girls' tennis athletes were to make my job much easier this fall. Kara Evans was the no-brainer selection of player of the year, being PIAA Class 2A champion. Now, in any other year, you would say Lily Lengel or Emma Cuck.
Sure.
They've certainly been in contention, being the fact that they were also state champions in doubles, but I think Kara Evans was the clear-cut player of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And how could I vote against Kendra Croker from Scranton Prep? She led her team to a second PIAA Class 2A team championship in only her third year as the head coach of that program. So she was my coach of the year. So we're going to start, releasing these teams as we have time here moving forward, trying to get them out of the way as quickly as we can and gather the information that we can. But also in addition, Joe, the Lackawanna coaches tennis and Lackawanna coaches volleyball teams were announced, and we want to congratulate everyone who was selected to both of those teams. And if you get a chance, please check out those postings on the Times-Tribune.com.
Absolutely. And, like you said, we'll start rolling through. I have the coaches, the soccer coaches, all-stars. I have them. Just need a couple headshots, and we'll get moving on those. All region teams as well. So
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Exactly. A lot of stuff still to come in with the fall sports as we move into winter sports. As you had mentioned on last episode, Joby, the winter sports season started its official practices. So
on Friday, Joe, everybody else was busy. And the winter sports tips off on
that's right.
on Friday.
That's right.
Listen, these kids are gonna. I'm telling you right now, Joe. We talked about who could have possibly predicted what great success we've had here in the fall sports season. Well, I'm here to tell you there are some very talented boys and girls basketball teams in the Lackawanna League who are going to be in strong contention for state championships come March. So I want to get ahead of myself. There's a lot of season to play and anything can happen. But I think if we all remember back to what was a very exciting end of winter sports season last March.
Oh, yeah.
You were on the mats with your boys and girls champions that you had. And then, I don't want to reveal too much, Joe, but I don't think it takes a real, intense high school sports follower to know that Nico Antonacci's coming back from Riverside.
Yep, exactly.
And Holy Cross has about 2 all-state players coming back from that team last year. So, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Old Forge Blue Devils, who happen to have 4 starters back from a team that went to the quarterfinals last year. So there's going to be some exciting times on the hardwood moving forward. And what I will really appreciate about that too, Joe, is I won't have to battle this absolutely crazy weather we're enduring.
I know.
Right now.
I was going to say, I'm looking forward to covering events indoors. No offense no offense to our fall sports teams. But speaking of fall sports, obviously I was wrapped up in soccer, but you guys did a great job covering the football. And Joby, there were I know you're well aware of this, but there were some crazy first round state playoff games, and I'll let you take it away. Let's start with your games, Joby, and whatever you want to talk about.
Well, first, Joe, let me start with Delaware Valley, because that was a terrific game on Friday that I attended. I kind of rolled the dice a little bit, and I thought maybe the Delaware Valley could upset Hollidaysburg, which I thought would have been a major story across the state if that could happen.
Yeah.
Because Hollidaysburg was undefeated and ranked quite high in Class 5A in the state. And
they had a hell of a start, Joby.
So I'll tell you, the ebbs and flow of a state playoff game are just sometimes incredible to watch in real time.
Yep.
And Delaware Valley got off to such a terrific start. Anytime you return the opening kickoff for a touchdown, it's a quick infusion of energy to the fans who have traveled very far from Delaware Valley to Danville, and 2, to the players on the sideline who, you kind of have to get adjusted to the weather and the conditions and everything. But what a great start. And then Delaware Valley quickly got the ball back, and Mike Isolino broke a 30-yard touchdown run. And then again, Delaware Valley's defense stopped Hollidaysburg and forced a punt. And a couple plays later, Trey Newton catches it. The next thing you know, Joe, it was 21-0 Delaware Valley. And you kind of figure, boy, if they could just hold on here.
Yeah.
Yep. But that's extremely difficult in the state playoffs. And here's the reason why, Joe. I know this is not news to you, but to some of our people who don't follow the sport across the state, there are good teams out there.
Yeah, sure are.
There are some good players out there, and they have some pride too.
Yep.
And so this game, if I could sum it up, Joe, was back and forth after the 21-0 spurt. But really, what ended up being the ultimate momentum swing in a game like this, and I talked about it with some of our friends who join us on the sideline on a week-to-week basis. I said, anytime you find yourself in a track meet type of game, okay, which this was, okay, as the score 56-42 would indicate,
sure,
you really unfortunately put yourself in a tough spot as a coach, well, because you can't do what conventional wisdom would lead you to do.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is it's hard to punt, because if you punt, you just kind of that's going to cut. It's going to be a 14-point swing. Yep. Okay, you can't seem to stop the opponent. And one of the things that's also difficult for teams and players and coaches is sometimes when you take that early knockout shot and you're still standing, which of course, when something like that happens in the first quarter, you have plenty of time left.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of how you react and how calmly you stay in the moment. And I thought Hollidaysburg, a veteran team, a lot of seniors out there, a lot of really talented athletes on the field, really huge linemen, high school kids with bodies you just don't see on a regular basis in District 2.
Yeah.
And those players responded, and they came through and made some big plays. And I think ultimately Delaware Valley kind of, when the flow started to go against them a little bit, they kept trying to fight back, and it just became too much for them to to endure, and they made some costly mistakes when they really couldn't. You couldn't. You couldn't stop. You couldn't fail on a fourth down. You couldn't punt. And Delaware Valley, unfortunately, got forced into those types of situations. But it was a great effort by Delaware Valley. I think, it's always difficult at the end of these games. Joe, you've been there when you see these seniors kind of hugging it out with their teammates, and the raw emotions of what has been a very long process in getting to the state playoffs ends. Yep. And it ends in disappointment. Look, anytime you lose, if you're an athlete, you're a competitor, there's certainly a level of disappointment. I know people often say, well, you have nothing to be ashamed of. Of course not. You're in the state playoffs. Mm-hmm. That goes without being said. But if you don't know the psyche of an athlete, you just don't understand what those kids are going through emotionally after the game. And I really want to thank and congratulate Coach Keith Olsemer and his staff. They've been great all year with helping us in our transition into a new way that we cover high school football. And the players themselves, Trey Newton, who's only a sophomore. We're going to see more of him in the future, but he does lose his teammates that he's very close to, Mike Isolino and quarterback Colin McGarvey. All three young men stepped up to the tape recorder, and they did their post-game interviews with me, and they fought through the tears and gave really well thought out emotional responses. And that's what makes covering these teams so worthwhile for us, even in defeat. It was a real special moment that we all got a chance to share afterward at that game. Okay. So Delaware Valley, again, great season. Not obviously the way they wanted to end it, but I think moving forward, there's some really tall tasks ahead, even for Hollidaysburg in that Class 5A bracket. So we'll see how that plays out. But also, Joe, then on Saturday, I got right back on the road, drove out to Shamokin, Lackawanna Trail. I know you sometimes get tired of hearing me say about, they have 23 kids on this roster. I think it's 25 officially. There's a couple guys hurt. But Line Mountain came out looking like a small college team. Yeah. I mean, they must have had 30 or 40 players, and they looked like, honest to goodness, you could have put them on the field in a Class 3A state game and nobody would have known the difference.
Yeah.
The two receivers, both are 6'5". The quarterback is 6'3". They have two linemen in the 280, 290 range. Really athletic running backs, an incredibly strong-armed quarterback. And it was an imposing type situation for Trail early on in the game. Line Mountain came out, and they had a very good game plan, which, it may be something that other teams try to utilize moving forward. What's the best way to defend Lackawanna Trail running back Isaac Ryan?
Right.
Don't have him on the field.
Right.
Okay. So you don't put the Lackawanna Trail offense out there, and the quarterback took the entire play clock, snapped the ball with 1 second remaining, and just kind of was surgical in moving the ball down the field. But you kind of got a sense that Trail was frustrating them doing it that way. Line Mountain all year has been putting up those video game type numbers. With that level of athletic talent, playing a Class A schedule, I could see why they would get enamored with scoring big against their opponents.
Yep.
But you can see the frustration kind of setting in that first drive. And then Calix Douglas, Joe, swats a pass. Tyler Jervis snagged it out of the air like it was pitched to him. And he sprints the other direction. And I think the Lackawanna Trail fans themselves, who are normally really, fiery and psyched up and loud, they got caught off guard. They didn't even know what happened. And Jervis was in the end zone. And Trail had taken a 7-0 lead without Isaac Ryan touching the ball.
Yeah.
And so if you're on the Line Mountain sideline, which I was not, but I had to imagine the theory and the feeling over there was, do you believe we just ran 13 plays and Trail's winning?
Exactly. Oh, my goodness.
And then Line Mountain came right back down the field and took the rest of the quarter. And I think Lackawanna Trail ran 2 plays in the first quarter, and it was 7-7.
Oh, my. That's crazy.
To Lackawanna Trail's credit, Calix Douglas really made the difference. He harassed that quarterback. He didn't always get to him, but he certainly made him have happy feet. The kid was very athletic, very talented, Caden Maurer is his name. And Trail had a great series. Once it got the football, it scored a touchdown, or scored a field goal, excuse me. And it was 10-7. And then the next defensive series, when Douglas really came alive, he forced a fumble. Line Mountain recovered it, but it was for a loss of 10 yards. Then they had a penalty, and then they were at the fourth down at the 10-yard line, and Maurer went back to punt. And it was kind of a weird snap, and he, instead of punting it, he decided to throw it and to avoid a rush, and Trail took over at the 10. Well, you're going to give Trail forward chances from the 10. Brian's going to score.
Yeah.
and he did. And the next thing you know, again, if you're Line Mountain, you had the ball the entire game.
Right.
And you're down 10. So
right.
And so Lackawanna Trail from that point, once it had the lead, really played well. It was, I know Trail fans have kind of gotten used to seeing Isaac Ryan bust 3 or 4 or 5 even 60-yard runs. Look, that's not going to happen anymore.
No.
We're in the state playoffs. Okay, you're not playing, conference games now. You're playing the best. And this team was really, really talented, Joe. Really physical, and made life hard on Isaac Ryan.
Right.
But guess what? Other guys on this football team, Tyler Jervis, we mentioned already defensively, but offensively was very impressive. Sean Dwyer converted some very key, important third down situations for Lackawanna Trail, and the defense was trying to stop and key on Isaac Ryan. And I can't say enough about the offensive and defensive lines of Lackawanna Trail. Very impressive. So in short, or in long, as I've been very long-winded here, Lackawanna Trail is going to play again. Congratulations, 31-20. They'll play Belmont Charter this week, Joe. Friday at Northern Lehigh Bulldog Stadium. I'm familiar with that area. It's going to be a great time, and certainly good luck to Lackawanna Trail.
Yeah, absolutely. So just very quickly, hugely impressive victory for Trail, like you stated. And, kind of, I don't want to say getting over the hump, but clearly this team, had the experience from last year's loss in the first round to Muncie, and a very, very talented Muncie team, and were able to impose their will on a very, very good Line Mountain team. So congratulations to them. That was very impressive, and very impressive by even in defeat. Delaware Valley really putting up 21 straight points on Hollidaysburg. Super impressive, and going toe to toe with them. They didn't come out the victor, but still an impressive game and an impressive season for them. Joby, obviously, all year North Pocono has been our best team for the Lackawanna Football Conference. Well, in District 2, honestly, and they had probably the game of the week when it comes to our teams, going blow for blow with Bishop Shanahan and coming out on top. At least we had our boy Scott Walsh out at that one. I probably could have had him on the podcast to talk about the game, but I was watching it from my hotel room as I was preparing for get a good night's sleep before the Abington State final game.
And Joe, we all know you like to tuck in right around 9 p.m. on a regular basis. So
you know me. Yeah. Early to bed and an early riser. That's me. How many times do you send me a text and I don't respond 3 hours later after I wake up? But anyway, I digress. So, I mean, this was a game where you could just tell whoever had the ball last was going to win. And when Bishop Shanahan scored with, I think, a little over 2 minutes left in the fourth, I immediately said, and I'm sure everyone on North Pocono said, too much time. And North Pocono, Joby, they just ran the ball. They didn't even have to throw the ball. They just ran the ball and overpowered Bishop Shanahan and Cole West with an incredible run, a touchdown run to cap the victory for North Pocono. Also, a great defensive play at the end to strip sack the quarterback. Just again, I mean, just another incredible performance by this now, program record number of wins. Obviously, they tied it, but they've surpassed it. This is a phenomenal North Pocono team.
Joe, I feel real good for this group. Again, they've been our number one team the entire season, right from August, as you like to say, from June. And the reason being, I had to know a couple of these kids. Cole West is a track star as well.
Yep.
And so during the track season, I do get to know the kids really, really well. But Evan Wolf, I'm very close to his dad, Randy Wolf, who was a coach at Delaware Valley and then the head coach at Western Wayne and brought that team such great success there. And then now he's the defensive coach with North Pocono. Extremely close with Coach Greg Dolan and his family. He's married to Missy Henzes, who is the daughter of Coach Henzes. So got a chance to know him a lot. Well, he was coaching at Dunmore and then now at North Pocono. So I do know a lot of the personnel there. Ryan McAndrew, an assistant coach at North Pocono, was a former player of mine in my coaching days at Lackawanna Trail. So I have some connections here to this football team. And you mentioned, Joe, at the end of the game, okay, you're down in a state playoff game with a little over 2 minutes to play. I think, what Greg Dolan learned from his father-in-law, the late, great Jack Henzes, is that is no time to panic.
Right.
And, it's in those moments when you lean on those you have leaned on in the past. And by that, I mean that offensive line, Dylan Castor, fee, fi, fo, fum, 6'8", 335 pounds, here I come. And others. Cole Zimmerman's up front as well, and he's a physical football player, and Evan Wolf's a tight end, and you've got Cole West, who if you just keep giving him the ball, or you keep giving Josiah Gray the ball, these are kids who are going to make plays for you. Mm-hmm. And I think if you do that, if you keep your head and you don't get caught up in the moment, and you just calmly say, look, this is what got us here. This is what's going to win us this game. Let's not do any type of triple reverse plays. Don't try to throw the ball when we don't have to. Let's move the chains. Don't do anything silly low percentage until you absolutely have to.
Right.
And Cole West came through, as he has all season.
Yep.
Joe, he's done it. He's shown that he can do it.
Right.
So keep feeding him the ball.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then what happens? You come away with the win. And now you're moving on. You're the first team in Class 4A under the new 6 classification format for the Lackawanna Football Conference to advance. So congratulations. Great job by this football program, that coaching staff, and the players. It's just incredible. Great job. 13 wins, school record. And now Evan Wolf and Cole West and Matthew Laborani can tell their dads, we have more wins than you.
I love it. That's phenomenal. Like you said, Joby, they have built they've built who they are. And that's why it was so obvious to me they were going to win that game, because they're a great team. They've got talent everywhere and they know how to win. And they proved it yet again.
Joe, and that theory holds true for Scranton Prep as well against Mifflinburg.
That is a great segue, because this is a team that has been in all season. They played top tier talent, had a great non-conference schedule. They came from behind against DV in the game that DV led 31-7, and Scranton Prep finds themselves down in this game, I believe 14-0 to start the game, and they don't panic. They come back and they get that victory and move on to the quarterfinals, Joby.
Joe, you're a team that has played the absolute cream of the crop, not just in District 2, but you've also gone out and scheduled these non-league opponents in Canisius from Buffalo, New York, and Loyola from Maryland for a reason.
Right.
And it's for these reasons. There is no reason to panic.
Right.
Stay settled. Do what you do best. Keep the ball in Will McPartland's hands, and all will work out. You may not win, but you certainly are going to stay in the game.
Yep.
You're not going to get blown out. You're going to keep fighting. These kids from Scranton Prep know what it takes to win state playoffs games. They've done it before. And, I had complete faith in that defense would eventually find a way to slow that passing game down. And look, they only ran for 24 yards in the game.
Right.
So it's hard to move the sticks, Joe, if you can't run the football. So great job by that defensive front. And, what more can you say about the offensive line paving the way for Will McPartland in the running game? And Scranton Prep advances. Now, Joe, looking ahead, Northwestern Lehigh has been a real thorn in the side of the Cavaliers the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Okay. And your Will McPartland, your last memory was walking off the field with a very severely injured knee.
Yep.
So this is going to be a dandy. I think this is probably the best matchup of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how it all plays out. I think these are the 2 best teams in the East.
Yep.
In Class 3A, and I think that the team that wins this game will go to the state final and give whoever's playing from the West all it can handle. Remember, Northwestern Lehigh is the defending state champ.
Yep.
So I think Scranton Prep has gotten itself to the point where it's playing its best football now, and it has endured and withstood a very challenging schedule, and they are reaping the rewards of that in these games.
Without a doubt, Joby, without a doubt. So, like you said, Joby, all these games are Friday.
Yeah. Now, before I tell you the rest of the schedule, Lakeland did get beat down in Philadelphia.
Right.
Listen, this was a great turnaround for Lakeland. I know fans are kind of queasy after the 43-7 final score in that state playoff game. I still think Lakeland's ahead of schedule in terms of its rebuild from what was a tough 2 years after that dynamic 2022 season. Yep. I may get some criticism for saying that, but that takes nothing away from the great contributions of the senior class at Lakeland.
Right.
David Nanowitz, Caden Kuzo, Gavin Roberts, Weston Loomis, some others that were involved here that were a big part of this resurrection in the program and winning the District 2 championship in Class 2A. Ran into a very talented opponent, which is going to happen in the state playoffs. I know fans don't understand how it works, but these teams are district champions too.
Yeah.
So
yes.
So, and Lansdale Catholic, I know people didn't read my story closely enough, but did have 4 Division I players on their team. And by Division I don't mean Lackawanna Football Conference Division I mean NCAA Division I players. So yeah, these teams are good too. But it doesn't take anything away from the fact that Lakeland had a fantastic season this year, and they should be celebrated. And look, sometimes you need to get a little humbled in that type of situation. We've talked about the Abington Heights boys soccer team, what it did to bounce back.
Yeah.
We know what the Lackawanna Trail football team has done this year after getting beat last year by Muncie and, of course, earlier this year by Berwick. So we'll see what effect this does have on those young players from Lakeland. As you know, they'll have a lot of those kids back next year. But, Joe, we do have a full slate on Friday. I already mentioned that I'll be at the Lackawanna Trail Belmont Charter game at Northern Lehigh's Bulldog Stadium. I'll reveal the reason why later. North Pocono will be in action against Cardinal O'Hara, which is a program that has just won its first District 12 championship in program history, Joe, or at least the first one since 1972 or 73. But certainly that's going to be quite a talented team going against North Pocono. That game is at Whitehall Zephyr Stadium. Okay. And then we have Scranton Prep going back down to Crispin Field, where it will play Northwestern Lehigh at 7:00.
Absolutely, Joby. So we got a jam-packed Friday, and
I've got a jam-packed Saturday, Joe.
Yes, you do.
Because
you do.
Well, the one big game that means the most to me this week now, and don't get me wrong, I hope all of our teams win.
Right.
On Friday night, I'm in full support of them, but forgive me if I'm a little bit derelict in my duties this week, Joe, because the rivalry game is Saturday.
That's right.
The longest running college football rivalry in the country. A rivalry game that I participated in as a player, Joe. I know you find that hard to believe.
Yep.
And Lehigh visits my alma mater, Lafayette College. Saturday kickoffs at 12:30, by the way, Joe. I know you're interested in that.
Oh, man.
You'll be tuning in.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But this is the one Saturday where I really am diving in the deep end. I go back every year to the best of my ability. If you remember last year, I shoveled myself out of 22 inches of snow.
Yes.
To get to the game. We want no repeats of that this year. I don't think the weather is going to be too bad on Saturday. But Joe, just to kind of, I enjoy it because my experience at Lafayette College was not one that I am extremely proud of in terms of a football player. I had some unfortunate luck, which sometimes happens to high school athletes when you get into the collegiate level and you suffer very difficult injury. We talk often about these young players here who have suffered injuries. Well, in 1988, when you tore your ACL, Joe, short of cutting your leg off at the knee, they pretty much ended your career.
It was done. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it was very difficult to repair. I told the doctors that I was going to try to come back and play as a sophomore. And anybody, first of all, I've moved away from my family. My mom was sick at the time. And that injury was very devastating. And when you have a doctor tell you, look, you're probably never going to play again, you rely on a lot of people to kind of get you through that. And those people were my teammates. They were my fraternity brothers. And the relationships you build through those very dark times, you can never replace. And so I really enjoy having the opportunity to get back every year to spend time with them and see them. A lot of them I don't see that much anymore. Okay. But I was able to play my sophomore year. I got to play in the rivalry game, and we had a fantastic year. And I have friends and brothers who I will have for a lifetime, and you can't replace that. I tell people that all the time. No matter what experience you have in sports, if you make that type of bond with somebody, and these are people from all across the state and from other states too, who I have very, very close and deep relationships with. And it's always great to get together with them, and we chat about some of the fun times we had and some of the tough times. I mean, a lot of my college classmates and teammates also had their careers end early because of injuries. And in college, when that happens, that is the end. Okay. And, for a lot of us, we're recruited players, we're scholarship players. It was difficult. So I'm looking forward to it. Lehigh at Lafayette for the Patriot League Championship, by the way, Joe.
Yeah.
And a berth in the FCS playoffs on the line. Should be a dandy. I can't wait.
I was going to say higher stakes this time. So big game. Well said, Joby. I'm happy that you said that. I must say, I just thought about this and I can't believe I almost forgot. But before we sign off, I must give kudos to my alma mater, the University of Scranton.
What a great win.
Women's basketball team, Division III, beating Division I Pitt yesterday. Sophia Toledo, Dunmore graduate, had 14 points for Scranton. And, what a win. I'm seeing on these national sites, Joby, ESPN, all this stuff. 0.1% chance to win that game. They win it 69-63. Joby, what a victory.
Joe, Ben O'Brien.
Yes.
Victory of the year. That will go down as the women's basketball game of the year. And it's the biggest victory for the University of Scranton women's basketball program since it won the national championship. And I'll argue that day forever. That is a huge win. Great job by those players. Casey Cranston is on that team as well, who we've covered in the past. I believe Kelly Romanowski's also a member of that team. Just a great job by the University of Scranton Lady Royals. And my daughter's a student at the University of Scranton, so we're rooting for the Lady Royals the rest of the week.
Exactly. Come on board, Joby. Come on board. I love it. But yeah, it's funny because the first thing I thought of was when I was on the wrong end when my Michigan Wolverines lost to Appalachian State back in the day. But I'm glad that I was now I felt a part of a victory, Division III over a Division I school. That is amazing. And Joby, before we sign off, I do want to thank you for powering through typing and clicking, which will obviously be knocked off. No one will hear it when they, listen to this podcast, but you were battling through, you ever have one of those days, Joby, you're just working constantly, so probably not. You ever have one of those days where someone reaches out to you and is just like, hey, who's supposed to be doing this today?
And it was supposed to be you.
And then you look at the schedule and it's me. And around 3:00, our good friend, old buddy Ron Davis reached out to me and said, "Hey Joe, who's on in sports today?" And I looked at the schedule and it was me. So I've been slotting and proofing pages right now, kind of working while doing the podcast. I realized at one point you said, "I know it's hard for you to believe that I was a player there." And I just said yes, which was kind of hilarious.
Joey, it is hard for a lot of people to believe when they see you now.
So yeah, sorry, I was pulling double duty there, and I appreciate you kind of powering through the clicks and the typing. So thank you. Thanks to Billy Johnson, state champion Billy Johnson, for joining the show at the top. His Athlete of the Week interview with me will be in Tuesday's paper. We're recording this Monday afternoon into Monday night. So that will be in the paper and online, the Times-Tribune.com/sports. Follow us on X at SportsTT, as we'll be at the football games on Friday. Follow Joby's Facebook page, Joby Fawcett, the Times-Tribune. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, Times-Tribune Sports. And yeah, we've still got plenty more left in the fall and a whole